Good afternoon, everyone. Marlene Gonzalez with Canvas Real Estate. As always, every Wednesday, we're here bringing you classes of value. And today we have a very special class at the request of one of our agents. Listings, okay? So I hope you enjoy the class. Remember that we put this in YouTube channel, and you can see it later on calmly, okay? So today we're going to be talking about your listing not selling. So we're going to provide some tips to deal with these types of sellers so we can get the property sold, okay? Now, there's 12 likely reasons why your home is not selling. When we're talking about your home, we're talking about the one that you have listed, okay? It could range from your price is too high, you missed the market peak, you got a specific problem that needs to be addressed, you're working with the wrong buyers. Have you ever heard of that? Your home maybe is unconventional. The staging isn't what it was supposed to be, or maybe it's non-existent. Your curb appeal is no good. Your listing photos aren't professional quality. Your listing description is too dry, too bland. Your marketing needs a total makeover, and maybe you're getting wrong advice. And you want to make sure that you're not dealing with a helicopter seller, right? Okay. So let's dive into this. And if you have any questions, please let me know, okay? Okay. The number one reason home buyers pay attention to overpricing. Buyers are very savvy these days, okay? In a recent survey of more than 1,000 real estate agents across the country, overpriced homes ranked as number one deal breakers for buyers. Okay? If it's not the condition of the property, it's always the price. In fact, it's usually always the price. So how do you know if your listing is priced too high? Pricing a home for sale is very complex. To predict what buyers would pay, you must clearly review recent sales and make dollar adjustments to the property based on competitive differences. Now, there's a saying that 80% of what we do is strategic pricing. 20% is presentation and marketing. Okay, so if you got the price right, everything else will basically fall in line. So as agents, we have the benefit and access to more on-demand information that guides us as to where the price needs to be. The homeowner, typical homeowner, really does not. They could go online, they could go to Zillow here and there, but we all know that that's never up to date. So in other words, that's our UVP, our unique value proposition. So we're going to dive into what sort of tips you should do to try to get that house sold when we realize that the price is too high. Definitely update a CMA after 30 days if the property has not sold, because on a daily basis, you have properties that are going on the market, go on the contract, property contracts fall through, closing, so on and so forth. Okay. After 30 days, if you don't have activity, it's time for a price drop, period. You can even agree to lower after 5 days with seller's permission on the listing agreement. For example, a lot of times the seller wants a price and you could say, okay, we can try your price. But if in 30 days we don't have any offers on the table, I'd like to see if you would agree to lower the price to this amount that I'm recommending to you, and you give me your prior consent. So automatically it goes through. You know, a price cut may sound like the kiss of death for getting the value you'd hope for, but in reality, price reductions are very common and sometimes necessary to reel in buyers. So according to the data from National Association of Realtors, 36% of buyers considered a better price when purchasing a previously owned home. So how much should the seller lower the price? You don't want your seller's house to drop the price $1,000 every week. A significant price reduction will get the job done. So how do you weigh those options? For example, if your listing is getting a lot of showings, but no offers are coming in the table, they recommend 1% markdown might entice the right buyers that can afford a different bracket, perhaps. If there are few showings, a 2 to 3% price reduction may be necessary, okay? It's important to be mindful of online price filters. Buyers search in $25,000 to $50,000 increments for the most part. So this way, we are cognizant of stepping into the next price bracket, if necessary, to get the property in front of the right buyers. Okay. Next, seller will miss the market's peak. You know, right now, the market is turning. Did you know that? Real estate isn't as volatile as the stock market, but it can quietly shift while you're not paying attention. According to Realtor.com research, the number of homes with price reductions has been rising. In fact, the percentage of homes with price reductions increased 15.5% in July of last year to 18.9% in July of this year. So the market is turning. Another factor that the market is turning is that there's more inventory. Currently, we are about 4 months worth of inventory. The moment it hits 6 months of inventory, it's going to turn into a buyer's market, but not now. Okay, so you have to take advantage while it still is a seller's market. Homes overpriced or not in top condition are sitting longer. We have a lot of picky buyers waiting for the right property, and they're not in a rush, and they're saying, well, maybe interest rates are going to go down. I'm going to wait, so on and so forth. So if you're working with a seller who is comparing another property in the neighborhood with a similar floor plan, for example, that may be sold $10,000, $20,000 above asking price, that doesn't mean that the property you have listed is going to sell for that amount. Okay, in real estate, that could be considered an over improvement, and the property upgrade that's more expensive and larger than what the typical neighborhood can hold. Okay, there's this house in Hialeah on West 4th Avenue that I go by a lot. And you know, Hialeah has homes that were built maybe in the 50s, 60s. This house looks like a palace. So that's an over improvement. They're never going to be able to sell that corner 2-story house with pool, with gazebo, with everything, because it's just over improved for the neighborhood. Okay, so right now, as I said a few minutes ago, it is turning into a buyer's market due to increasing inventory. Sell before it turns into a buyer's market. A property should be priced properly to sell and fast. Keep up with what's happening in the market and examine buyer options in real time. For example, if the seller is adamant that they want to keep their price, why don't you suggest to go on an in-person or maybe do a virtual tour with them of similar properties in the neighborhood? So they could, because one thing is the pictures that you see on the MLS, and another thing is when you walk another property that they're using as a comparison, and that way they'll be able to tell whether my property is really worth that amount. So depending on what the competition looks like, a seller may either choose to bring their house up to standard or reduce the price accordingly. And it's usually cheaper to just reduce the price than having to invest money and remember the overhead cost of maintaining the property on the market too long. Capiche? Okay, number 3. Maybe you have a specific problem to address, okay? And that specific problem is holding you from selling the home. Even if a showing doesn't provide you with a buyer, it is extremely important that you get feedback, okay? Feedback, oh, excuse me. I think I jumped to another section of the presentation. My apologies. Let me go back here for a moment. Number 3. Sorry, we got a specific, a specific program. Okay, you see, I just had a senior moment and that's acceptable. So when they go see the home, it's very important that you as a listing agent get feedback. But when you get that feedback, it's not just send a little survey. It's not just make a call. Speak to that other agent. Speak to the buyers that went there. Ask them specifically, what's wrong with this home maybe? Or what would need to change to make the client want to buy the home? If you get the same answer from multiple peoples, whether it be another listing agent, a buyer agent, or a buyer itself, then that's something that you need to pass along. So, for example, once you've identified that there's an issue, you can work to mitigate it. If multiple buyers say the house is too dark, for example, recommend they add some lighting, okay? Declutter, or hire someone to clean the inside and outside of the house entirely, okay? If buyers, for example, are having trouble envisioning something specific, like, okay, where can we hang this TV when the living room or the family room has a lot of windows, or how to fix fit a king size bed in a smaller master bedroom. You can basically update your staging to illustrate a solution where one picture could be a blank room and the other picture could be a staging instead of what they actually have. So all of this is possible with virtual staging these days, and there's services that will do that for nominal fees. Okay. Now, you also may need to address maybe a flaw or an expensive repair that the property has. Okay. So for example, in evaluating if one of your listings has an outdated or damaged countertop or formica, perhaps if they invest in a new slab of quartz or even epoxy painting, it could definitely bring up the value of the kitchen, because a lot of times it's the kitchen and it's the bathrooms that give you the most value other than closets in a property. That's another stickler. In older homes, you have small closets, and a lot of people like to have storage, okay? Now, of course, there's things that you basically can't change. For example, what if the homeowners association dues are high? And by the way, that's happening to me at this point, okay? Or your home is on a high traffic street or across from a school. Those things you really can't fix, other than maybe with the homeowners association, maybe the seller can offer to pay 6 months worth of association fee. You can't change the position of the home, but at the end of the day, the price would cure everything. And there's always a buyer, okay? Let's say you're working with the wrong buyers. What do you mean working with the wrong buyers? Okay. You know, working with the wrong buyers is not that you are working with a buyer that doesn't have financing, for example. It's maybe because of the home. Who are you focusing your marketing strategy to? If the property needs repairs of sorts, okay, maybe you would and they need to sell the house, okay? Maybe you would present the home to a real estate investor or a wholesaler. There are buyers out there that are not concerned with the condition of the home as they will pay cash, and especially if they need to sell the home. So instead of focusing all your marketing to first-time buyers, families that are growing, so on and so forth, even somebody that's a handyman could be a potential buyer instead of just a regular buyer from the street. But there's a lot of real estate investors and wholesalers out there that would be willing to buy that home. Okay, now these types of buyers will usually send a full cash offer, and many times they could close in as little as 20 days. Okay, in this particular scenario, the route provides a low stress selling experience for the seller that's much quicker than most transactions that require financing. I recall one occasion I had a listing that was like this, but the issue was that they were relocating and they needed to be in their new job upstate New York in 60 days. Okay, so the pricing was important, but then the approach of the marketing on my end had to steer over to real estate investors and wholesalers to achieve what they're wanting to achieve. Okay. Maybe the home is unconventional. Okay. What do we mean by unconventional? Okay. Like, for example, unique, large, high-end, and expensive houses aren't for everybody. So they're usually going to take longer to sell anyway. For example, and we see that a lot here in South Florida, a home has 2 complete living spaces under the same roof. It may not appeal to a family, but an investor looking to rent part of the property Airbnb or have a suite for an in-law relative or even for a tenant to have income producing might be the solution to a home that is not typical, okay? But as far as tips are concerned, first of all, the seller needs to have patience. If the home is unconventional and it has unique, distinctive features, the seller will have to wait for that perfect buyer. Secondly, you should, pick their brain and find out what appealed to the seller when they bought the home, because these are things that maybe you can incorporate into your marketing to make the home more appealing. There are bound to be other buyers who feel the same way. Okay. And with the AI technology we have, I'm sure we can elaborate a benefit of something that they fell in love with when they bought the home. Ensure that the marketing strategy positively portrays the distinctive features so the property resonates with buyers who would appreciate its charms, okay? Maybe it has a Zen garden. Maybe there is a jacuzzi in the corner outside the bedroom for privacy, so on and so forth. And that's why they want the price that they want. Okay. Finally, get the information in front of the right people. In addition to online real estate sites, consider posting on Facebook groups, on specialty website. Let's say the property is oceanfront or has Lakeview. You could maybe create a landing page for people looking for Lakeview homes or oceanfront homes. Obviously, mailing lists. Local apps, that your Canvas real estate app, you could do what is called a push notification to promote your listings, not just with social media. And that way you're going to be connecting with people that do, in fact, have your app, okay? And can connect, and you'll be able to know if they actually logged in and looked at the property. Then you have other apps like Nextdoor or even print publications that target these types of buyers, okay? And when I say print publications, maybe you want to advertise in an association community newsletter. Maybe you might want to pass it along to other agents that work other markets. They might have somebody wanting to relocate to this area, okay? Now let's go into staging.
Todo lo que estás diciendo, Marlene, forget.
Alita, hello, how are you?
Ay, Marlene, ¿tú me vistes?
No, no te vi, pero te estoy escuchando porque estás en la clase.
Yo lo que estaba diciendo que, mira, el mercado ahora está parado en tanto en rentas como en ventas. Entonces, yo he bajado propiedades y le he bajado precios y aún así no se están moviendo las propiedades como estamos en un momento muy especial. O sea,
Sí.
que nada de lo que uno haga o forget it, no trabaja. Yo no sé qué es el problema que está pasando en este momento con el mercado. Yo creo que vamos a esperar que pasen las elecciones y se vuelva a restaurar el mercado como antes.
Claro, pero por ejemplo, Marlita, tú que manejas tantas propiedades de renta para tus clientes, si el mercado está así este año, de repente en vez de pedir 3 meses de depósito, deben pedir el primer mes y un mes de security y vas a lograr más personas que tengan 2 meses y no 3 y están dispuestos a entrar a la propiedad. A ver, y Ala está aquí y nos va a dar una sugerencia.
Yo lo que estoy haciendo también en algunos casos es decir que le puedo cobrar el security deposit en installment, pero entonces no refundable.
Ah, mira, ¿viste qué idea? Cobrarle el security deposit en installments y non-refundable. Hay que tener flexibilidad con ese inquilino. Sí, si estamos hablando de renta.
He tenido ofertas así de que me han dado que me han mandado de primer mes y un mes de security deposit. Ay, perdón. Pero las personas son que no califican, o sea, no es por el depósito, porque está bien, yo puedo negociar el depósito y eso me ha tocado hacerlo muchas veces, pero los personajes que mandan no son ni siquiera para correrse el riesgo, ¿me entiendes?
Sí, sí.
Entonces,
sí, definitivamente.
el mercado está de verdad que, ¿cómo se llama? Que no es nada comparable a lo que nosotros hemos tenido. Es algo que está pasando actualmente, o sea, es un proceso que estamos viviendo y no solamente en ventas, sino en rentas y todo eso. Sí, es como se llama, yo sé que
bueno, Marlita, tú y yo somos de la vieja guardia.
De la vieja, sí.
Y recuérdate que en el 2008 no teníamos ni una llamada de un día para otro.
Está pasando, así
y sobrevivimos.
Sobrevivimos, no, esto es un proceso, esto es una etapa nada más.
Pero después que yo pasé la crisis financiera en el 2008, ya nada después ha importado, porque si pude rebasar y sobrevivir en esta etapa, y sabemos bien que después de las elecciones las cosas con el favor de Dios se van a empezar a normalizar.
Sí, eso yo creo que eso va a ser lo que nos está aguantando ahora el mercado, porque es un momento y hay que, yo ahora, si alguien me dice que va a vender, yo le digo, vamos a esperar para, ¿cómo se llama?, que pase esto, porque si no tienes urgencia de vender, hay que estar listando debajo del precio del mercado para poder competir un poco.
Sí, pero bueno, cada casa trae
cada casa tiene sus cosas especiales y eso.
Especiales, sí. Perfecto. Oye, Marlita, gracias por entrar y dar tu opinión y más una persona.
No, yo te estaba oyendo desde el principio.
Ok, no, hoy tuvimos Comcast tumbado, no, ha sido un día interesante, pero aquí estamos y estamos grabando la clase y después, por supuesto, lo ponemos en YouTube. Ok, vamos a regresar a las 12 razones. Ok.
Bueno,
back to English, your staging is terrible or maybe non-existent, okay? Showings allow buyers to get the feel for the home and help them to envision the space as their own. Now, it's hard if the house is cluttered with children's toys, a lot of, tokens from when they traveled or collections. So unstaged homes can seem cluttered, cramped, dark, and small. I recently showed a property here in Miami Lakes. Very nice property, but it was on the market for 3 months and nobody would rent it. And the reason why is that the decor was a more antique decor, but it was just the decor, it was just the furniture. The house in itself was beautiful. It was light, it was bright. It had a pool, beautiful cabinets, bathrooms remodeled, but the fact that the landlord kept their furniture there instead of just leaving it vacant, okay, while they were in the rental process, it would have rented sooner because I could see furniture and look beyond the furniture of what I would do, but not everybody is like that, okay? Now, typically a stage home sells for more money, and it does so in a shorter time frame, believe it or not. Whether it's staging that you actually stage it, or whether it's virtual staging that they do these days. And I see a lot of virtual staging that you have a vacant home, a vacant room, and then the next picture is envisioning what it would be if it had staging, okay? So in other words, staging, new paint, maybe decluttering, can offer an increase in price. It determines how desirable the home is to market, how many offers it gets, and how fast it sells. So here are the tips for our agents. Make sure, and don't be shy, that you tell a family that in their closets need to be decluttered, for example. Put away family pictures. That way they could start packing up. Okay, and other things that are personal to you, to the family living there, and have them place them in storage in bins in the garage if there's a garage, or somewhere in the home. Even if it's just in a corner, a bunch of boxes is better than someone coming to see the home and not envision themselves in that home because they know you're emotionally tied to the home. Okay, then once you can see the floors, the walls, the shelves, and other spaces, you can determine what may need painting or repair. And let me tell you, painting is one of the cheapest things you could do to give value to a home. For example, I remember years ago, I had in the entrance of my home a beautiful burgundy wall. It was spectacular. It was like a greeting. And I had a beautiful statue in the entrance, but that doesn't appeal to everybody, okay? So since you're leaving the property, or the seller's leaving the property, it's understandable that they maybe don't want to fix things that they've ignored for years, but little upgrades often bring a considerable return on investment, as can hiring a professional stager. The right staging almost always doubles or triples in value. And this one I should have highlighted. Painting to a neutral color, the home, at least inside, can make a difference. A minimalistic decor will allow buyers to envision themselves in the home without the distraction of too much furniture, decor, pictures, so on and so forth. And that's what happened with this rental property that I was talking to you about. Everywhere I look, every crack and corner of the wall had picture frames, had tokens. There were more furniture than the living room could handle. Beautiful furniture, by the way, very expensive furniture, but it was a different taste, okay? Now, if the home is occupied and the seller is still living in the home, perhaps staging only the living areas, the kitchen, bathrooms, and a primary bedroom should suffice, okay? You don't have to do the whole house, but let's say staging a 3-bedroom home might cost anywhere between $1,500 and $2,400. This is actual staging. But there are companies out there that do not have an upfront cost to the seller because their fee is collected out of escrow at closing. Plus, the stager gets to promote their services, okay? You wouldn't do it maybe at an $80,000. I don't think there's an $80,000 condo anymore, but you know, a more high-end home. When I say a more high-end home, if it's vacant and it's $400,000 or $500,000 dollar home that you're trying to sell, or anything above that, and it's and some staging can be done, it would be well worth it. But look what I highlighted. Remember that less is more, okay? Staging isn't about scattering potpourri or adding a ton of decor, good staging focuses on minimizing distractions and maximizing layout and design to highlight a home's best features. So if you've never done staging and you have a nice listing coming up, a vacant listing that is beautiful, imagine adding a little bit of furniture to it, a little bit of personal taste. Iyala, I know in your open houses, sometimes the homes that your clients fix and flip, you do a little bit of staging.
Yeah, always.
Why do you think that that brings value? Even though I haven't seen you do furniture, but you do little details in the bathroom and a candle and things like that.
Because buying is a psychological process. Cuando tú llegas ahí, you get in love with the property because you see that it's beautiful. You can envision how it's going to look.
Right. And you see these little warm touches, okay? Whether it's a set of towels in the bathroom, in the kitchen, maybe a bowl of fruit or something like that,
And,
right?
I'm also thinking about to put a TV with a music because when you put like a relaxing music, something like that, people love that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And if the house has a seller living there, you can ask them permission to turn on some music to just create the ambiance. Okay. Next, your curb appeal is no good. I don't know about you, but I've had buyers tell me, okay, driving up to the home, oh no, I'm not going to see that home. I don't like that home. And I remember turning around saying, okay, you don't have to, but I will. Because as a professional, I made an appointment. I can't just cancel at the last moment. So make sure that doesn't happen to you when you have a listing, okay? Buyers can't appreciate the excellent interior if they don't even reach the front door or get out of the car. For example, an overgrown yard, rundown facade stops buyers in their tracks right there and then. It's hard to believe that a little bit of paint, pressure washing, some new plants can translate into thousands of dollars in return. And according to a recent NAR survey, 92% of realtors nationwide suggest improving a home's curb appeal before selling, period, okay? So when you're going to preview the home, to do those comparables, right there and then, you should be taking notes and what you would do to improve the marketability of that property. And it starts with the curb appeal, period. Okay, now,
El landscaping tiene que estar perfecto.
right, of
Porque el
course.
buyer en los primeros 15, 30, 40 segundos sabe si lo va a comprar o no.
Right, definitely. So tips for the agents. Without much effort or expense, a seller can do a do-it-yourself project or work with a professional landscaper and to upgrade the landscaping. Maybe there's patches, like in my house, there's a couple of patches where the grass has died. Well, maybe a little bit of fresh grass, plant a few flowers, something to give it color, and fix anything outside that is weathered or broken in the home's interior. Okay, we're almost done. This is one of my favorite ones. Your listing photos aren't professional quality. Have you ever gone into the MLS and you see terrible pictures, no lighting, etc., etc., etc.? And by the way, it's not only, listen to this, it's not only that you're trying to sell that property, that's your business card. That's something you would use for a future seller. Show them examples of your marketing, which include those professional pictures, okay? So in other words, you need to amp up the digital marketing. When I started, it was postcards, door hangers, flyers, letters. Now it's all digital. So make sure you amp up the digital market and replace bad photos with professional ones if it wasn't done at first. Okay, maybe you got a small condo, you don't want to pay a photographer for a small condo. Get yourself a good camera that has, what do you call one of those USB things, chips? and you could take some pictures with a good camera, not just an iPhone. Consider adding a video or 3D walkthrough of the property, especially when buyers are from out of state. They want to get a feel that they're at the property at their leisure and that they're walking through the property. Okay, this year it's all about videos. Don't you see people recording videos and podcasts and things of that sort and reels? Well, it starts with the listing. It will definitely set your listing apart and can be used to showcase to potential sellers that the kind of a professional marketing you do. Now imagine this as a closing gift. A Shutterfly album with pictures of their home to remember the memories. It's a small investment that can convert into referrals. Because imagine that Shutterfly little album on top of the coffee table of their new home. And I say this because someone once gave me a Shutterfly album, and I have it in front of my coffee table, and every so often I open it up and I look at it. And by the way, it wasn't the home that I owned. It's my first granddaughter. So I love to look at the pictures. I'm a stickler for that. I like memories and to keep them alive. So yeah, imagine if you took the time, just like when you're going to do the listing presentation, then maybe you do a beautiful listing presentation book. We can print it here in the office. We bind it. But imagine as a closing gift, along with a bottle of champagne or whatever you normally give a seller, give them a memory of their home before they move out with the pictures that you spent money on. And by the way, Shutterfly albums are not expensive at all. Okay. Your listing description is too dry. For example, 4-bedroom, 2-bath duplex located in Hollywood, Florida. Okay, we all know that it has 4 bedrooms and 2 baths because the MLS states it does, okay? And we all know if it's a single family home or a duplex because the MLS has fields for that. For example, is it a 3-bedroom, which perhaps has an owner's suite? Is it a contemporary or Mediterranean home or a new condo, very chic, very modern? Is it close to the beach, a zoo, park, college, or nightlife? More than just describing the basics, you need to describe what sets the home apart and what would attract a family to it. Okay, so here are the tips for the agents. Ask the seller to describe the features they most love about their home. People have home ownership pride, and they love to talk about what I did to the home. Ask them what made you buy it in the first place. And since you bought it, what have you done to improve the home? And like I was saying a couple of seconds ago, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, parking spaces, and other data already appear on the MLS. The remarks section, and I put this in yellow, the remarks section should showcase the unique features of the home, why a buyer would love living there, or if it's a starter home or investment property, what are the opportunities for them? So in other words, you have to paint a picture of how the house can become their home. I'm going to repeat that again. You need to be able to, in the remarks, in your marketing, paint a picture of how that house can become their home. Okay? Let's go on. We're almost done. Number 10, your marketing needs a makeover entirely. Okay? Why do I say this? So, let's say you're relying on door hangers, yard signs, or posting on your own social media portals. This might not be enough to reach the right buyers. And I put buyers twice. Sorry about that. Now, buyers these days are most likely to find the house online first and send it to their agent. It's so important to be visible on social media and on all those third-party sites and groups that one can belong to. If I go to my Facebook groups, I belong to over 100 Facebook groups because there's real estate specific Facebook groups. You could just go and search for real estate groups and everything will pop up. There's groups by county, by city. There's groups for high-end homes. There's groups for condos. There's all sorts of groups. So make sure you follow these groups. And of course, you need to make sure that they allow you to post real estate stuff, okay? So don't put a home that you're selling in Miami Gardens in a site that is meant for people selling cars, okay? You wanna be specific. So here are the tips. Demonstrate your UVP. I love that since I learned what that word meant. Your unique value proposition. Why are you different and what marketing strategies you will implement to sell their home or their house? Show your track record. How many days on average are your listings selling? If you have sold 5 properties this year, what is your average days on market? You can also pull up that data from Canvas. We're one big team. Our Canvas team combined sells homes in an average of 30 days, 10 days, 25 days, so on and so forth. So use the strength in numbers that we have with our 9 offices and over 1,000 agents. Okay. Excuse me? I will. When I finish, well, you're going to get a copy of this PowerPoint. Okay, now, number 11, the seller is getting bad advice. Don't you always hear, my cousin is a realtor, my neighbor? It's important as a tip, a seller work with an experienced local agent. Not necessarily a good friend or relative that has a license out of the area or one that handles other types of real estate. This could be a gamble for the seller. When the seller lists with the wrong agent, they could end up taking a lot less for the home or staying in it for another 6 months or a year. Right, Daimara? Yes. So imagine we have a listing that has, I think it's been in the market, what, 8 or 9 months already? Okay. And the seller refuses to lower the price. But when you bring to the table, look at what your carrying costs have been. Okay. All this time, you would have saved on taxes. You would have saved on insurance. You would have saved on homeowner association fees. And when you add all that up in an 8-9 month period, voila, that was your deduction. Okay. Now, and the saying, as it says, your first offer is usually your best offer in real estate. And I learned that in the first property I sold 25 years ago. We had an offer 3 days after the property was listed. The seller was insulted. 5 months later, they ended up selling it lower than that first price because it became stale in the market. Now, look at this statistic. Do you know that the top 5% of agents nationwide sell homes faster and for up to 10% more than an average real estate agent? That means work with an agent that is experienced and can demonstrate the continuing education they have invested in their career to stay on top of the trends, economic factors, needs of clients, etc., etc., etc. Because you're always going to get an objection. And you have to overcome that objection, and that comes with your expertise. So minimum, doesn't matter if you've been in the industry 1 week, 1 year, 10 years, or 25, you've got to be on top of all these trends and continuously take classes like ours and the ones at the board, for example. Okay, What happens when your seller is a helicopter seller? You've heard that as a parent, right? Helicopter seller is a helicopter seller, okay? You know, sometimes it's hard to let go. Sellers are filled with emotional ties and memories. Some sellers want to control the entire process. For example, they might want themselves or their agent to be present at all showings. Does this sound familiar? But the seller's presence can actually create problems. That energy from the seller gives the buyers the feeling of being watched and prevents buyers from walking around the house as if it were their own home. And they might not otherwise voice any concerns or ask questions, and it's a missed opportunity if you think of it. So, tips for the agents. It works best when the sellers just pass off the keys and let you, the real estate professional, guide them through the process. Recommend they go out to lunch, take a drive to the mall, watch a movie so you can do your magic. In the long run, it's better for all of us, okay? And last but not least, it's not too late to get that home sold. It can be discouraging to see buyers passing by and new properties whizzing on the market and then off to closing at lightning speed. So what that is saying is you need to, every week of some sort, keep tabs on the properties in that neighborhood, okay? And I say this from the heart. Let's say you have a listing in, let's say, you have a listing in Miami Springs, okay? And you're not that familiar with that area, but you know what? You should set up a hot sheet in the MLS that tells you on a daily basis around that listing, active, new active listings, active with contract, pending, closed, because that way you can speak with ¿cómo se dice? Propiedad. You could speak with the knowledge that you have these tools and you really know what's happening in that market and share it. I used to do that many, many years ago when I worked in the Miami Airport area. I would get a Miami Airport hot sheet. I set it up like if I were a client. There was not a listing in Miami Airport, zip code 33186, that I did not know about. I knew about everything that was happening, the companies that were selling, how long the properties were taking to sell, how many price reductions that I could have a conversation with any seller. If it came up, it was top of mind, okay? But remember, it's never too late to get their home sold. There's a buyer for every home. I once sold a property that there had been an explosion and the roof blew up and we sold the property, okay? So if you're, and this is one of the last tips I want to tell you. If you're faced with a challenge, suggest to the seller to take the property off the market to regroup, plan new strategies, make some changes, and then relist. It can potentially make a difference. The new listing will be top of mind when it hits the market once more. And of course, hopefully with you as their agent once more, not another agent. Okay? Even if it's temporarily off the market and then you put in a new listing, it comes up. I mean, we could still go to history, but the consumer doesn't really go to history. The consumer just sees the listing front and center at the time. Okay? Thank you for attending. I hope you enjoyed the listing, not selling tips for agents. And of course, we'll upload this to the Canvas YouTube channel. Well, before I log off, I wanted to know if anybody had any questions. No questions? Questions? Okay. I think everybody got the gist of it. It was great seeing everyone again. And I look forward to connecting next week. What do we have next week lined up in the calendar? Oh, Ask the Lender. We're going to have an English version this month of Ask the Lender with First Origin Mortgage Lenders. Austin and maybe Ray could chime in like he did last time. I want to know what's happening in the financing world, don't you? So I hope to see you all very, very soon. Until then, Marlene Gonzalez with Canvas Real Estate, checking out. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.